On today's episode of the CLS Experience, we have a very delightful treat. He's a dynamic producer, songwriter, and award-winning composer for both TV and film, just to name a few. He's a lifelong musician who taught himself how to play the piano as a child and started producing his own music at 12, no big deal. He's earned a plethora of accolades and acclaim, including a produced single of his going a staggering 6 times platinum, hitting #1 on Billboard's US mainstream top 40 chart with over a couple billion streams worldwide, no problem. He's just a juggernaut in all facets of life, and his music has been streamed close to 100 billion times. Please welcome the innovative, charismatic, trailblazing, and handsome, the tenacious Tommee Profitt. How you doing, Tommee?
Wow, that was quite an intro, man. Thank you. All the adjectives, I didn't even know.
I did good by
Delightful
you.
treat. Delightful treat was my favorite.
It's funny because first of all, I'm so glad that I did right by you, but we probably could have talked for an hour before we hit record. But like, let's save the juicy stuff for the show. For the audience listening today, one of the favorite things that we get to do with 5 million downloads now is interview some of the people that I've been most fond of and share their story with the audience. If you're not familiar with Tommee, my biggest suggestion, do a deep dive. Check out his website, his content, his music, all that stuff. What I think will be most valuable today is we just have an unbelievable conversation. Before we dive in, we're going to get a little weird. You ready for me, Tommee?
I'm ready, I think.
What is your superpower, brother?
Oh man. What do you mean by that? Do you mean if I had a superpower, what would it be? Or do you mean like what do I feel like my superpower is with
The
my job?
latter. The latter.
Okay. I'm like sitting here like invisibility, and you're like, yeah, right. Um, Man, honestly, I think it's work ethic. Just being hungry and passionate and going for it and being ambitious and not being afraid of failure, like all of that kind of wrapped into one. I feel like um when you do things right and you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like you're just trudging along and having to cross off tasks. It should feel energizing, and it should feel fun and creative. And so I think I just try to keep myself in those lanes, try not to
Love it.
fall out of them, too
Yeah,
often.
this is going to be fun. I'm smiling for many reasons, but number one, because people always ask me now, like, what are you on? I'm like, trust me, like, I have contrast. I spent 35 years trying to find myself, but also, I remember people back in the day, like when I was on Wall Street, I used to hear people say, find what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And I used to be so skeptical. I'd be like, right, it'll always be a job. But no, when you go for
Yeah,
it and you fulfill what sets your soul on fire, it really is the most fun thing in the world, isn't it?
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, you're lit up. This is great stuff. And I love how
Yeah.
you said go for it and like not be afraid to look silly, right? Or fail, because that's some of the biggest learning lessons.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of situations in my life too where people may have doubted, per se, or thought, what are you doing? Is that going to be something? You shouldn't do that or whatever. And I just feel like I kind of am on my own like adventure and path, and I kind of know what my calling is, where I should go, what I want to do. And there's a lot of people in life that will tell you how they want you to spend your time, right? And I think the key is like not feeling too much pressure. It's like, I know you want me to spend my time that way, and I know you want me to spend my time that way. And most of the time, it's because of how it, you know, benefits those people, right? They want you to spend your time in a way that benefits them or whatever. And if you listen to that too much and do that too much, then you're left in a place where you should be able to do what you want to do, but you're not, you know what I mean? And you've taken on things that aren't in that passion, set that you have. And that's when things can get miserable pretty quick.
I love that you brought this up because I'm so big on that, right? And it's like setting boundaries. And sometimes like people might think you're being a little selfish, but like spoiler, like we don't get to do this twice, right? Like forget about soul,
Mm,
spirit, like from this physical human aspect of it. We only get a short amount of time. And if you're a people pleaser, which I honestly used to be, and you say yes to everyone, then there's little for you to really pursue what's best for you. And so that you can actually make a bigger impact for the world,
bro.
so to speak. Was this always simple for you, or is this something you really had to work on? Was embracing
No,
saying no?
I'm relating to you hard. I was a people pleaser, very hardcore. And I was able to make it work where I could still kind of fight for some of the things I wanted to do, but then also please people. And it was like this happy balance, that I was content with. But then it's, as any business, as it grows and more people are pulling at you and stuff, like it got to a point where I think I actually hit a wall where I had experienced it so much that I had like it was an instant change for me, honestly. It was so weird, man. I remember one Sunday afternoon, I was in my living room with one of my really close friends, and we were just having a conversation, verbally processing, as we do often. And uh, we were talking about this, and I was saying, "Man, this person is like making me feel bad if I don't do what they want." And this person, and we are like going, and all of a sudden, it was like the veil was lifted off my eyes within seconds, and I've never been the same since that moment. And I was like, "Man, I used to always feel like you said, like I would be selfish if I did what I wanted to do." And as a musician, an artist, and as I have music that I want to make, I'm also a producer who's making other people's music all the time, right? And so my own music and other people's music, and I'm trying to balance that. But then I got looking at, I'm like, all these artists and musicians that are making, music that we listen to, like no one thinks they're selfish for making their own music. You know what I mean?
Yep.
No one thinks Justin Bieber is selfish because he makes his own music. But Justin Bieber, people, I just randomly selected an artist. No one expects Justin Bieber to also make other people's music as well, right? And so that's where I was kind of falling in, where it's like everyone wanted me to make other people's music often, and they just kind of wanted me to work with their artists and their labels and their writers and and then it was kind of like my own music, which I need for my own creative outlet. Like I need
Sure.
it or I feel I go crazy. Like that was really suffering, and so I was kind of able to slowly, like, look, it's not because I don't want to work with you. I'd love to work with everyone. It's all fun, it's all great opportunity, but at the end of the day, I just know when I dread coming to work in my little spaceship that I have here, or when I can't wait to get up. I set my alarm at 5:30 in the morning and rush up here because I can't wait. What I mean? There's a big difference.
Hell yeah. I love this. And also, you mentioned spaceship right there. I couldn't help but
Yeah.
notice when you were describing it, I read somewhere that the inspiration for it was part Batcave, movie theater, and the inside of a Tesla. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's what I was going for. And then
Yeah.
all of those combined kind of turned into a spaceship. I guess that's what you get, when you add all those three things. But yeah, it's like my bat cave. I just have the blackout curtains drawn. And I know I have Iron Man in the back cave is weird, but yeah, it's just my own like space that I can't wait to get to every day, and it's hard for me to pull away from every day.
Yeah, off the cuff, real quick. Iron Man and Batman, right? Those were always my two favorite, and I'll tell you why. It's because they're relatable, right? Like essentially they're humans that put on a suit as opposed to say Superman and stuff like that. Is that one of the reasons why you gravitate towards those cats as well?
Maybe subconsciously, I don't know. As a kid, I was always really into Batman. I collected
Same.
Batman comics, Batman figures. I watched the movies, the show, all the stuff. But um, I don't know. For some reason, a life-size Iron Man in the corner just felt right
Well, it looks
for me.
badass.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to give you a quick acknowledgement. I'm a big Creed fan and Rocky fan, and your music is featured in the new Creed 3 movie coming out soon, right?
In the trailer for the
Trailer.
movie.
Yep.
Um, yeah, that was crazy. That's my favorite thing of all the music that I make. I do a lot of stuff for trailers and promos for TV and movies
Yeah, you
and
do.
video games, and that's still my favorite thing is seeing where these songs end up because we don't know. Like we make songs that sound cinematic, like they would go in a trailer for something, and
Yep.
then we have a team, that pitches them out to like 500 people around the world, and we'll just randomly get an email that says, "Hey, Creed 3 wants to use your song in the trailer," or "Hey, this TV show or this game, wants to use your song." And so it's really fun to just watch these songs kind of go out and see what they do. Some songs might never land in a trailer.
Yeah.
Some songs land in multiple trailers. Like it's always different.
Yeah, and because you put them out there, they become available. Now they kind of take on a life of its own. And Creed 3, that's a big movie. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably one of the bigger trailers that I've gotten. Just, I mean, that's a huge franchise.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Got me and my buddy who I did the song with. We went to the theater. Um, we we went to see Black Adam because we heard that the Creed 3 trailer was playing before it. So we got to, like, that's a cool feeling, being in the theater room watching the trailers
Sure.
and then yours comes on and you hear it through like the Dolby system, you know.
Yeah, hell yeah, buddy. I saw Black Adam too. But yeah, hell yeah for being in the theater and hearing it. So we're so cool. And a lot of the stuff, I think one of the reasons I gravitate towards you is just because like similar personalities, even getting to meet you right now and connect, I have a feeling it's just the beginning of the friendship. Like I just love your style, right? Like your vibe and so forth. And I wanted to ask you, a lot of the music that you might be most known from is some of like those remixes, like the Linkin Park one that was streamed over 60 billion times, stuff like that. Like, what was the creativity behind like those projects that really caught fire?
Man, that's what's so fun about this stuff is like I have no idea why that Linkin Park cover did what it did. I mean, it's insane. Like, every single it's streamed as much as every single person in the world listening to it 8 times now. Like, and that doesn't, I don't even know how to compute, those numbers. TikTok was a huge, fuel source for that song. Um, but like it didn't feel different when we did it. I've done a lot of covers, um, so, some that honestly I think are better, but like for some reason that is a thing that just caught on, and you can never plan on viral. You can't prepare and like do a thing. I don't feel like, I mean, there's songs that I wish would do a thing that aren't, and then there's songs that I never thought would that are doing a thing. Um, and so it's crazy to see what things take off and what things don't. Things that I've spent the most time on haven't. And that Linkin Park song was literally like one day, not even a full day, just kind of we did it and then it went crazy.
Yeah, this might be, and I love that you said that because it's funny because like, when you put yourself out there for the universe, like the things that you might not have seen coming. I'm just curious, maybe this is a weird question. When you do a song like that, that like it already existed with Linkin Park, like do you have to have like agreements or anything like that, or you just put your own spin on it?
Well, the way those like laws, copyright laws or mechanical license or whatever, I mean, anyone can do a cover of a song,
Got it.
and the writers get paid for the uses of the song, and then we own the master since we recorded the music and made a new version of it. So, I mean, Linkin Park is well aware. We've talked with their people. They're very excited and happy that it's doing a thing. I mean, it's kind of, brought a lot of attention to that song
Sure.
recently when it's like 20 years old, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
uh it's cool. I mean, they're definitely participating
Yeah.
in what it's doing.
Understood. Cool. It's another song that's big, and that's "I'll Carry You." And this one's pretty deep. And I wanted to ask you because of the message behind it and so forth, and maybe you could tell us what it is. And then also, I wanted to follow up with that. How important is your faith to you?
Uh, my faith is foundational in my life and every single part of my story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge part of my upbringing and my story just along the way. Like, there's been so many undeniable moments where, you know, I feel like God has directed me specifically, shut doors, open doors.
Ooh,
And honestly, man, for me, like I was pounding the pavement for 2 decades, really. And then the moment that I kind of got out of the driver's seat and, asked God to start driving, like that's when things started going 100 miles an hour.
really?
And it was almost like a letting go of my own efforts.
Surrender.
And it's weird because it feels easier in a way, but it's also, I think it's just hard to do that. It's hard to let go. It's hard to give control over to not ourselves, you know what I mean? And so for me, that's the foundation of my story is, letting go and surrendering that, and then things just
Same.
took off very quickly. Oh,
Same.
you're saying same for you?
Yeah, this is awesome. Straight up, like this is gripping stuff for me. Like I was always like, do like in the masculine, like grind, do hardest worker in the room. And when I finally had it, and my faith has gotten so much stronger over the last couple of years, specifically when I made that pivot and reinvention, if you will. And it was like at some point, like you don't need to worry so much about the how, right? Surrender and flow, and leave it up to realizing there's something bigger than us. and then all of
Mm.
a sudden things that you don't even see coming, right? And I love how you articulated it like maybe a couple of minutes ago. You're like, doors closed, and I know those happen for me, not to me, and other doors open.
Oh, yeah, man, 100%. And yeah, I don't think it's even like, it's not like stop working hard. I know you're not saying that, but I mean,
Yeah,
for people listening, it's like it's cool because you still work just as hard. But sometimes when you're working so hard in a direction and your head's down, like you're not looking up or listening for like, hey,
yep,
what direction should we even be going? We're just kind of digging. We're
yeah,
digging a trench, but we're not even thinking about, oh, where's this trench going? Like we need to go over there, right? And so I think just staying in tune and it's just flipping the question. For me, it's asking God, where do you want me to put my effort in? It's not, hey, you do the effort for me. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I have a lot of passion to like, work really hard and get up early and do this. So I just want to make sure that I'm pouring it into what I'm supposed to be pouring it into. Because we can work really hard on the wrong thing and
100%.
and not make as much progress as if we're putting the effort in where we're supposed to be. You know what I
Yeah, beautifully said. And then I want to come
mean?
full circle. Is that kind of the message behind "I'll carry you"?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's so many people facing so many hard things today more than probably ever before, you know what I mean? And so just around, across the board. So, I got with this guy, Steven Stanley, and he's a Christian artist, but we wanted to make something that was like for his audience and also that would work for like sync, you know what I mean? Which is film and TV music, you know what I mean? So something that could just be applied more globally than just for believers, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
so I think that's what that song is about. It's a very clear message, but there's also room for interpretation for someone who may be struggling and believing, and they could still be impacted and encouraged by it, you know what I mean?
hell yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. The pandemic, or I should say the lockdown for me, I think it was a global awakening, but I made the most of that opportunity to kind of really reassess and make myself available. I had another musician on the show last week, Andy Grammer, and he was saying something similar. I was wondering, how did you take advantage of the opportunity, or did you struggle with it in regards to the pandemic and the lockdown?
I have a well, maybe I think a lot of musicians maybe have this story, but I personally actually have wanted to make a Christmas album since 2005. Like I
Oh,
had this idea to do this really big Christmas album and just go all out. And I just kind of every year it got to like November or December, and I was like, oh, it's too late to do it this year. I'll do it next year. And I kept saying, I'll do it next year. I'll do it next year. And I mean, for over a decade, literally. And so, I had all these people coming in to record all the time, and I was so busy. I had so much on my plate. As soon as that quarantine hit and everyone just stopped, I mean, day one, I was like, I'm going to start on the Christmas record. And I thought it would take a month, and it ended up being a 6 month project for me. Um, but I did it, and it was kind of like this dream bucket list, lifelong project that I wanted to do. And so that's how I took advantage of 2020 when no one else was coming in the studio. I used that time to create this, vision that I've had for so long.
yeah.
It's probably my favorite project I've ever worked on.
So beautiful. And sometimes like we need that minute, right? And maybe we wouldn't have chose it, but it happened for us. And you just got to seize that
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, hell yeah. Is it? Did you work with Avril Lavigne on that? Of
Yeah. So the record is like it's kind of like a big epic movie soundtrack
course it
to
is.
this. Yeah, that's what I do. But it's like the story of Christmas. I take the premise of the story of Christmas, right? And it's a king is coming to earth, being born to like save the world. Like that is the most epic premise you can imagine. Even if whether people believe it true or not, like if you were to watch that movie just like you watched Lord of the Rings, right? And that grandness of just that vastness of a story. Um, I kind of wanted to do like a Hans Zimmer take on the story of Christmas with different singers on every song, like really, really amazing singers to, convey the message and sing the highest notes they've ever sung in their life. Is
Hell
basically
yeah.
what I what I tried to get them to do. So it's very dynamic and big and epic. And Avril was definitely one. She's one of the artists on there. And what I love about it is there's some pretty well known artists on the record, and then there's also some like not known artists at all that are just friends of mine that, but they're incredible. You know what I mean? And so putting them all together on one project was really fun.
Yeah, I love the Hans Zimmer reference. And I know everything you're about is epic and so forth. So love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to ask you this, like, what, in your opinion, what's most exciting for you? And I imagine that's to do with flexibility, but producing your own music.
Um, I think, when I produce for other people, there's a lot of creative dictation, right? Like if someone doesn't like a sound, I'm trying to make someone else's vision come to life.
Yeah.
But I personally have you know, a lot of my own vision that I like to create sometimes where I'm in the room by myself and I'm playing sounds and like no one's behind me saying, "No, I don't like that. No, take that out." You know what I mean? Like I can actually make it sound how there's some kind of freedom in that kind of creativity that I I need. I've realized if I don't have it, like I said earlier, like I just kind of get really antsy and resentful. You know what I mean? Like I have to get that out of me. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's my favorite part is just being able to freely create. And sometimes it's like a really soft, beautiful orchestral string and piano ballad. And then other times it's some big, dark, epic, like Marvel trailer sounding thing. You know what I mean? So there's lots of variety within the stuff that I like to make. You know what I mean? But I like the creative freedom of, um, making this stuff and then just seeing what happens with it. Some of it streams like crazy and doesn't get placed in a trailer. Some of it gets placed in a trailer and doesn't stream. Like they all have their own life. And
Sure.
to me, like I said earlier, like I'm not afraid of like putting out a song that doesn't perform as well as the last one. Like
Sure.
I like to create, release, create, share it, and just keep going. That's what kind of energizes me in my life.
I get it. You're a creator and a visionary, and you're unique, right? I consider myself probably the weirdest cat ever, and I used to probably be embarrassed about that, but now I own that, and
Yeah.
that's what separates us because we have a very weird, unique style. And when you're not able to kind of go all in with that, you feel, I imagine, a little like constraint.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, Tommee, you were pounding for 20 years and then you surrendered and it really started to get traction and blew up, for lack of better words. I don't want to do a whole background story because I want the audience to do their own deep dive if they're not familiar and so forth. Like, walk us through a little bit of that journey from when you were pounding, trying to make this dream become a reality to when it actually hit.
I mean, like you said, the fast version is I think I was 7 or 8. And my parents bought me like a small keyboard that was super little, and I just became obsessed with it. And I was just playing it all day long, learning things by ear. And so we kept buying bigger keyboards, obviously. And then I I found my dad on his computer when I was like 11 or 12. My dad had this like music notation software on his computer, and I would just sit down in the basement with my headphones on and just click in notes and create tracks and music. And then I would make CDs and sell them to my friends at school and church for like $3 a piece. And I did that for years. I basically did that my whole life. And then when I was in college, I had a band and we were traveling, and we actually traveled for like, man, 12 or 13 years. We were
Wow.
traveling around the country doing shows, all kinds of events. Uh, but I was always producing my own music during all of that time. And then in 2013, while I was traveling with my band still, I built a studio and just started producing other people's music. And I don't know why it literally never dawned on me before then. I didn't I was just a musician. I made music. That was like my narrow tunnel vision. So finally I was like, what if I made other people's music too instead of my own? So I opened that door, and that kind of is what blew the roof off of everything. I mean, really quickly, within a month of doing that, actually. And that's part of my story too, is like which path to go in music and lots of, prayer in that. But my buddy Nate, who's known as NF, he's the artist NF. He's from Michigan, and he and I knew each other for a few years. He came over one night. We made a song. That song got him signed. Brought me along with him as his team, his producer, his writer, um, and Capital signed me as a writer, and just kind of opened all these doors for TV film stuff. And that it's been almost 10 years now of like those doors have just opened faster than like too many doors almost, where you know what I mean. And I say that humbly because I just don't feel like I did anything to like, I put in the work and I was, striving for like just to do music full time. That was my dream, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it was just like giving up touring on the road and producing in the studio. And then now there's this really amazing thing where I can still create my own music, but I don't have to tour and be on the road away from my family. I've a wife and three kids,
Hell
and
yeah.
like I get to like stay home, but still make music that goes out and makes all this stuff. And um, that's probably the hugest blessing of it all, is that I can do it from my house, because the nature of my artistry is it's like a producer artist, a composer, more than
Yeah.
you know going on a big tour and singing on stage and traveling over all through the night. Like we did that, and it was just, when you're in your 20s, you're kind of resilient and you can sleep on the floor in the van and eat $5 pizza every meal. But now, man, I'm 30. I just turned 38, and if
38
I
years young.
yeah, but if I sleep on the floor in the van, I mean, I won't be able to walk for 3 weeks. You know what I mean?
Understood.
So so yeah, it's been an amazing shift. I feel like this is where I should be. It's back to where I was when I was 12 in my
Yeah.
parents' basement. Like now I'm just in my own house, in my studio making MIDI tracks and making music. It's
Yeah.
literally what I was doing when I was 11 or 12.
Talk about full circle. And the best part is you're just getting warmed up. And I just had like a vision, like when you were telling that story. And I don't even know if it's something you want, but like I could see you being like the next generation of like Hans Zimmer. And when I say that, and for the audience, it's like, who's Hans Zimmer? Like for all the big epic movies that you've probably seen, he does the score for them. And you're so
Oh yeah.
talented with that. And your music is so like, I don't know, there's just something about it. Like if people know you, like they love you. You know what I'm saying? So I
Mm.
I could definitely see. Look, you're young, my man. You're 30 years young. Like I don't even know if that's a. I hope you think that's a compliment, but I could see that
Yeah.
it's going there.
That's definitely my long-term plan to keep, as a musician, it's like you have certain seasons that you can do
Sure.
things in, you know what I mean? And like, working, I do some hip hop stuff, right? It's like, I don't know if I'm going to be the guy to go to for hip hop when I'm in my, 60s, maybe. But like, I feel like as a 60-year-old Tommy, I'd probably rather score films. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like, I can do that later when I can take everything I learned over my life in music and kind of put it into scores. Like that is my next, like, I'm not rushing. A couple studios have approached me about scoring stuff, and I'm just kind of slow to like open that door, because I know that'll really swallow me up and that'll be it. And so I feel like I'm really enjoying what I'm doing now, where I can take the big scoring cinematic sound, but apply it to like songs and covers and like pop songs, hip hop songs, trailer songs, like just kind of doing all of those things. I feel like that's what I love right now.
And that's
And
okay.
I
Yeah.
can, yeah, and I can score movies in 20 years if I want.
100% you can. Yeah. And that's awesome. And there's a message there for the audience too, right? Like you can't say yes to everything just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, good for you for doing what feels good and knowing that there'll be other opportunities.
Yeah. And that's the fastest thing that leads to burnout, because
True.
it's not just only say yes to the really great opportunities, because sometimes even those are too many. You know what I mean? Like it's not take every good opportunity, say no to the things you don't want to do. It's even more than that. It's like you literally have to just pick and choose certain things. They're all good. They're all great, and they're probably all enticing and exciting. But you just, having a realistic perspective of how much one can take on. You know what I mean? Like how much can I take on before I really begin to suffer?
Yeah,
Like I'm still trying to narrow in on that.
sure. I feel like it's a lifelong journey, right? And something that I
Oh,
try to apply
100%.
is if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. But I'm still working
Yes.
on that because there's a lot of look as you continue to step into your power and really what you're doing right now is so cool because and it's relatable to me. You're forming an awesome hybrid of making a massive impact and obviously making a very lucrative living. But like it doesn't get better than this. Like be doing what you love, and obviously people are loving it, so to speak. And you're on the right track. And obviously you got here not necessarily by coincidence. You're doing something right. So you
Mm.
got to follow your intuition sometimes, or a lot of the times.
Yeah, 100%. And there's like you said earlier too, there's a lot of people who are rich per se, and
I'm happy.
they're not happy. They're not happy. It's miserable, and like there's people that want to be rich think, "Oh, if only I was, then I would be happy." You know what I mean? And it's like literally it's a weird thing because you can think, "Oh, if I had this," we all do it. There's something. It's, "Oh, if
Sure.
once that happened or once I reached this or achieved that or got this." It's like there's intentionally a hole that can't be filled by achievements or money or possessions. Like it actually is a thing. It sounds, I don't, not to sound corny, but like it's actually a thing that I think was intentionally put in us. You know, those things can't fill that. And like joy comes from so many other places than getting your music in a trailer or getting a $1 million check or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
This is awesome, straight up. No, I relate to all of this. And like it's not you have to fall in love with the process, something that I've learned the last couple of years, right? And everyone always like,
Yeah.
Craig, like how did you blow up your brand in such a short amount of time? Like I want to be doing this. And I'm like, but do you want to do what I did? And I fell in love with the process. And it's that long game mentality, just every day stacking wins, right? First downs here. And then all of a sudden, it's like, wow, look what we've created. But you gotta love the journey.
I think one of the things that stops a lot of people these days is uh, the distraction of like all the streaming, all the like. There's more music than ever before to listen to. There's more movies and TV shows and limited series and streaming services. You know, the iPhone wasn't even around when I was in my grind
Sure.
season, right? YouTube was brand new. Like, I sound like the old guy now, right? But I'm like, I actually feel bad because, you know, I talk to a lot of college students that are like, man, I want to release music or whatever, and they're 19 years old, but it's like they're they're watching they're spending their whole weekend binge watching the newest, you know, whatever the new thing on Netflix is for the weekend or whatever streaming service. And there's all these distractions and now like TikTok and Instagram and those can suck hours out of your
Sure.
day.
Sure.
And so it's like that stuff is viewed as like being culturally relevant, you know, socially relevant, like, you know, talking with your friends about the, you know, the newest stuff. Like that seems really, really important, you know, to all these kids. And like I get that. And I have like sympathy that they have that distraction because, you know, I had the luxury of not having those things around. I mean, I still feel like I would have chose a studio over Netflix, but I don't know that. Like, who knows what would have, you know? I mean, everything is coming so far since, you know, 20 years ago or whatever. And so for me, I just see a lot of kids who like spend 18 months putting one song out. And I'm like, you should have put two albums out. If you really want this, you have to put two albums out in 2 years, or else everyone's doing one song and waiting months and months and months. And there's just, you know, nowadays that's not going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like what's the old expression? It's done will always be better than perfect, right? Like you got to throw some spaghetti at the
Oh
wall,
yeah,
some things,
100%. Yeah, like put out 10 great things instead of zero perfect things.
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But the distraction thing is something I think you have to be either a creator or a consumer, right? Like you can't really like consume all of the stuff people are putting out while also making a bunch of stuff to put out for other people to consume. Like you can kind of do it, but like the level of passion and work that it requires to make it in like your dream field needs needs to be more than a 50-50 create consume ratio. Like it has to be 99-1. You know what I mean? Like you can watch Stranger Things in 20 years, right? It's not going to go anywhere. Like you can watch it later, but like if you're just keeping up on all this stuff, like and you're consuming what people are making, then there's no room for you to make stuff. And I think that's just what I see that I think is important to communicate to a lot of people. You know, like how much time are you pouring into your dream when you're outside of whatever your job is, your work, you know. Most people their job that they don't love fries them. So when they get home, instead of jumping into the computer with headphones on or whatever their goal is, right, in life, I'm just using music as an example. Like they're like, "Oh, I'm tired. I'm gonna make frozen pizza and watch TV."
You nailed it.
And and
Yep.
they just used up all of their time to create that day, and then a week passes, they're not any closer to their dream. They're literally not one step closer to their goal, and then a month passes, and they're not one step they did nothing to move forward. Like, no one's gonna move you forward but
Now,
yourself. You
if
know what I mean?
anything, they're actually more stuck, right? Because they
Oh,
just
yeah.
keep settling for being in that 9 to 5, whatever it is, that doesn't do anything for them. And one of the big messages of what I preach and so forth is reinvention, right? And not necessarily a career, which I did, but like an identity. And for anyone out there, like there's so much information now at your disposal. There's literally no excuses to not pursue your dream or figure something out, but you got to take action, right? So the time that you do have, you have to create opportunities. And if you get home and you're a little bit tired, sure, there's always a choice. Choose your hard. Is it hard to then work on your passion or your dream? Yeah, but what's harder, that or dealing with regret in 15 years?
Yeah. It's kinda like I always say this. I always say, "Work like you've never worked for 10 years." And if like be prepared to work like you've never worked for a decade. And like if it happens sooner, great. Like that's a bonus, you know. But like don't expect it to happen sooner than 10 years. And you're like, man, but if it happens in at the 10-year mark, the whole thing you said of like if you love your job, you never work a day in your life, like
Yep.
then you'd have what 50, 60, 70 years, however old you are, you know, like the rest of your life you won't feel like you have a job, you get to do your passion. That would be worth 10 years of really, 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 really stressful hard work. Otherwise, you're gonna have 80 years, you know, of like non-enjoyable work for the
Unfulfillment. Yep.
rest of your yeah, the rest of your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So sorry, I was kind of preaching
No,
hard on all
no,
that.
Tommy, I love this, brother. And there's so much synergy. The only negative I got going on is we don't have 10 hours to chat. But like I said earlier, I think it's just the beginning of the friendship. We'll land the plane with these two final nuggets. I'm just curious
Yeah.
because you're such a visionary and such a creator and creative. Who were some of your musical inspirations as you were growing up?
And I've had weird ones. Like I I honestly, you know, I was the guy in high school. I would listen to trailer music in my car. Like just I didn't listen to the radio. I didn't even know what songs were on the radio. I was really out of that loop. I always gravitated towards movie music, and trailer music was kind of new at that time. It was like there was this group called Immediate Music, and they like had music in the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, and like I remember hearing that song and like freaking out about it and trying to find it on, you know, whatever it was at the time,
Napster?
LimeWire. Yeah, one of those. And like just trying to, you know, I loved that music so much. I never thought I'd be able to make it. Like I'd have the opportunity indoors to, you know, actually have songs in that capacity. But that was always my favorite stuff. Steve Jablonsky doing like the Transformers soundtrack, Trevor Rabin with like the Deep Blue Sea soundtrack, Gone in 60
Classic.
Seconds soundtrack. Like those
Classic.
soundtracks were just like really powerful to me, you know. And so, and then, you know, obviously Hans Zimmer, like he's the goat now.
Godfather.
Uh,
Yeah.
I love all his stuff. I saw him live a few years ago in Nashville, and it was the best live thing I've ever been to in my life.
So what is it? He's like a composer and he does like a concert?
Yeah, but he sits at the piano, he plays. I mean, he's a musician. He played
Yeah.
guitar on some songs, he played piano on some songs. Some of the songs it was just kind of the orchestra and he had other people in his band playing, but you know, he wrote all of that music, you know, and
Yeah.
so it was really, really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I always had like there's nothing better than a good trailer, right? And like a good trailer will get me to the movies, and sometimes the movie is lackluster, but the trailer was so good. And then sometimes like
Right.
I'll see a movie afterwards because the trailer didn't really impress me, and I'll be like, this movie was great. Like, how come the trailer didn't look so good? So there's something to be said about a sick trailer. And one of the things that makes up a really good trailer is the song, gets you pumped up and gets you engaged.
Oh, 100%. I agree. I mean, trailers are like they've become this art that I mean, if you look at trailers from like the mid 90s per se, like they're so bad and cheesy. Like it's really weird and like I don't know where that shift happened. I talk about this with my friend all the time. It's like somewhere along the way trailers have become like you could watch a trailer as it's like a short film and it just does something. It's powerful. It moves you sometimes more than the movie itself. You know what I mean?
100%.
Um, but yeah, there's bad trailers and good trailers, and you know that can a lot of times sell the movie. But this whole thing of like this trailer music and the way the trailers are edited so masterfully now, that's an art in itself. You know what I mean? That these
100%.
trailer houses have, they've really nailed something there.
Yeah, I agree. This is so cool, so much fun. Tommy, with all the cool projects that you have going on right now, what are you most excited about?
Well, hands down has to be, that Christmas album I talked about.
Yeah.
I'm attempting to pull it off live in 2 weeks from today, actually. Or no, not in about 2 weeks. It'll be, I don't know when this is coming out, but December 6th,
Okay.
2022. I'm doing this big show in Nashville, live show, and it
Oh, cool.
has a 55 piece orchestra, um, and 170 person choir and 21 artists and a band. I'll be on stage at the grand piano, and it's just this huge thing. And we're filming it and recording it, so there'll be a live album, when we're done. But that's been 15 months of planning for this one event. So it was kind of my dream to try to do this live with all the artists and everything, getting everyone together. Um, and somehow it miraculously came together. But I am fried from it, that's for sure. But I can't wait.
It's all gonna pay off. And I think it's so cool. I didn't know about all this, but just speaking to you today, like you wanted to do the Christmas album for a while and you kept putting it off. Then the lockdown or the quarantine provided you that opportunity. Now you're doing it live. So cool. And I know it's gonna go great. Cool. Good for you, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, the podcast is blowing up. I say very humbly, we're at 4 and 5 million now. But the audience is very loyal and engaging. What's the best way for all of the listeners to support you?
Um, yeah, I mean, they can find me on all the things just by using my name, Tommee Profitt, but it's spelled differently, right? No one ever spells my name right. So this is the trick. So Tommy is two M's and two E's, and Profit is one F, two T's. So two M's, two E's, one F, two T's. And if you get that right, then you can find me Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the places.
Yeah, and Tommy's being very humble. You can find him anywhere in 2 seconds. How can I
We'll
personally
see.
support you, brother?
Sorry, what?
How can I personally support you?
Oh man, just keep listening to the music. Reach out again, man. I'd love to talk to you again. This was fun. And keep crushing it yourself, man.
Yeah, thank you so much, but I really appreciate it. Hang out for 1 second. I want to connect with you after. Tommy, I
All right.
want you to know you're the definition of perspective, creativity, and growth. From taking your life experience and spreading positivity, light, and deep truths. You're a true visionary, role model, and beacon of hope for anybody coming up today with big goals and aspirations. I could personally guarantee your best yet to come. Keep on spreading your wings and leaving your mark on this world. So much love and respect for you. Thank you so much for stopping by and dropping these priceless nuggets today.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
That was too much fun, brother. Thank you, Tommy.
Woo. That was great. Dude, thank you, man. Appreciate it. It was so good to talk to you.
Yeah. I thought you'd be a little bit different, but I'm genuinely a fan. I really appreciate this. Let's stay connected. What's the best way? You run your own Instagram?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I'll connect with you there. You ever come out to New York?
Dude, I was just in New York 2 weeks ago.
Come on. How
Yeah, I was
come?
there. Ashton Kutcher did a thing in New York. I don't know if you heard about that. It was he
Marathon?
has a he did the marathon, and it was that same week. He did he has an organization called Thorn,
Yeah.
a nonprofit, and so me and my buddy went to that. That's a nonprofit that me and my wife support, and so we went to that, and they kind of shared about some of their vision for where they're going and stuff. So it was like a quick 1 day trip, but that was the first time I'd been to New York in probably 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, so not often.
Yeah. Okay. If you ever come out again, we'll grab a coffee. And if I ever find myself out there, I'd love to connect.
Awesome, man. Yeah, let me know if you're ever in Nashville. It'd be great.
Yeah. I'll connect with you on Instagram in about 10 minutes. And I'm looking forward to supporting you and building the friendship.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
All right, Tommy, have a good day, brother.
All right, see you. Bye.
Bye.